Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Ever heard of a guy becoming the great before he even hit 30?
Yeah, like some kind of prodigy.
Well, today we're going to deep dive into this Roman general, his ambition and victories. Right up there with Alexander the Great.
Wow.
But hold on, this isn't some boring history lecture, okay?
Yeah.
This is a gripping biography.
Oh, really?
Pompey the Great, the Roman Alexander, by Lee Fortantuono. Links down in the description. Go check it out on Amazon.
Okay.
And trust me, it's got it all. Power, betrayal, crazy twists, even a little romance.
Oh, wow.
If you're into these deep dives, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out. Okay, so this book,
Yeah.
it's captivating, right? Like for Tantuono, he brings Pompey to life. Not just some name in a history book, but like a real guy.
Right.
Navigating this crazy world of Roman politics. Born in 106 BC, super turbulent time. Imagine growing up with civil war and violence all around you.
Yeah. That's intense. It's easy to forget, like, these guys, these historical figures, they weren't just statues.
Right. Real people dealing with some seriously complex stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of complex, Fra Tantuono doesn't sugarcoat things like Pompey's rise to power. It had some dark moments.
Mm-hmm.
He had to make some ruthless choices as a young man, just to survive, to climb the ladder in that world.
It's cutthroat.
Totally. One thing that comes to mind, siding with Sulla during the civil war against Marius.
Oh, yeah.
Pivotal moment. Early 20s, saw the opportunity, aligned himself with the winner, even if it meant betraying old allies.
Playing the game.
It was. Early sign of his political maneuvering. Some might even call it
Opportunism.
opportunism, yeah. Foreshadows a lot of what he does later.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if that ambition, it was always there, just simmering.
Right, waiting to erupt.
And boy, did it erupt, crushing those rebellions in Sicily and Africa.
Ooh, Magnus the Great at 25.
Oh, 25.
I mean, come on. Sets the bar pretty high for the rest of your career.
Right. And it's not just the wins themselves, it's how he got them. Master of logistics and organization. Wow.
Reforms the army, more efficient, disciplined, also understands propaganda, made sure his victories were shouted from the rooftops back in Rome.
So he's like a PR genius, too.
Yeah, savvy, military skill plus political maneuvering. That's how he rose so fast.
So not just a warrior, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a strategist, this PR whiz, maybe even a bit of a showman.
You could say that. Knew the importance of image and perception, especially in Rome, where reputation was everything.
Okay, so we got this ambitious young general racking up the wins, but Roman history, it's never a straight line to the top.
Right.
Fortantuono takes us to Spain, a whole new challenge, the Sertorian War. What can you tell us about that?
This is where Pompey's adaptability, strategic thinking really gets put to the test.
Oh.
This was not your typical war.
Okay.
He's up against Quintus Sertorius, brilliant Roman general gone rogue, leading this rebellion. Sertorius knows the terrain, has support from local tribes, a master of guerrilla warfare.
So it's not just brute force that'll win the day.
Exactly. Pompey has to change his approach.
And he does. He does, remarkably well. Realizes he can't win the old-fashioned way, so he adapts. Starts using some guerrilla tactics himself, focuses on securing those supply lines, building alliances with the local tribes.
Sounds familiar.
Just like Sertorius had done.
Oh, clever. Turning the enemy's own tactics against them. Did it work?
Well, the Sertorian War, it was long and brutal, but in the end, yeah, Pompey wins. His reputation as a brilliant military leader cemented. But there's something else this war reveals.
What's that?
Pompey's political cunning. His willingness to use any means necessary to get what he wants.
Ooh, that's a little chilling. Starting to see some cracks in this image of the great general.
Maybe a glimpse of the ambition that'll eventually bring him down.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, this was a time of intense rivalry in Rome. Ambition wasn't a flaw. It was practically required to survive.
Right, right. And Pompey, even though he's young, he's already a major player in this game.
Absolutely. A major player. And the game gets even more intense when he gets back to Rome.
Oh, yeah. Things are about to get really interesting.
Because he gets elected consul, 70 BC, alongside his rival Crassus.
Oh, wow.
A huge moment. It's the beginning of this complex, often tense relationship that'll shape Roman politics for years.
Okay, so before we get into that rivalry and all the drama that comes with it, let's talk about something that really stood out to me in this first part of the book. Pompey's handling of the pirates. Seems like a side note, but I think it's really telling.
You're right. It's often overlooked, but it's incredibly revealing. At the time, piracy in the Mediterranean, it was out of control, disrupting trade, creating fear, made Rome look weak. Pompey was given extraordinary powers to deal with it.
And boy, did he deliver.
Mhm.
Crushes those pirates in a matter of months.
Yeah.
A display of naval power.
It's impressive. But what's even more interesting is what he does after. He doesn't just, slaughter them.
Wow.
He offers them clemency, lets them settle in different parts of the empire, gives them land, a chance to start over.
That's a surprising act of mercy from a man known for his ruthlessness.
It really makes you think, was it genuine compassion? Or was it a calculated political move? To gain popularity, undermine his rivals. For 10-20 doesn't give you easy answers. But it shows there's more to Pompey than meets the eye. This complexity, we see it again and again throughout his career.
Yeah, it's that mix of ruthlessness and mercy that makes him so fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground already. His rise to power, the Sertorian War, becoming consul, even that surprising mercy he showed the pirates. But we're just getting started.
We are just getting started.
Pompey's story, it's a wild ride. We're going to deep dive into all of it, so stick with us.
Welcome back. We were just talking about Pompey's surprising decision to show mercy to those pirates.
Right. It's like he was trying to show people, like, hey, there's a different way to do this whole power thing.
Yeah, not just the typical Roman, brutality.
Exactly. And that becomes even more obvious in this next chapter, the Mithridatic Wars. These wars against Mithridates VI of Pontus, this king in the east, they were a real thorn in Rome's side.
A long-running problem.
And they basically gave Pompey free rein to handle it, didn't they?
Pretty much. The Senate saw the threat, but they also saw Pompey's potential, so they passed the Manilian Law,
Wow.
gave him, unprecedented power and resources. Risky move, but it paid off big time. His campaign in the East, a masterpiece, military and political strategy.
So he wasn't just focused on winning battles.
Not at all. Pompey, he was a builder, not just a conqueror. Didn't just defeat Mithridates, he reorganized the whole region,
Early.
annexed territories, set up Roman provinces, got those taxes flowing, and made alliances with local rulers.
Wow.
And he didn't just, force Roman rule on everyone, incorporated local customs and traditions into the administration.
Interesting. So he was trying to make it work for everyone.
It seems that way. Take taxes, for example.
Yeah.
Instead of a flat rate, which was the usual Roman way, Pompey set up a system that considered, the economic situation in different regions.
Smart. He understood that if the East was stable and prosperous, Rome would benefit.
Exactly. That approach, plus his military victories, made him incredibly popular in the East.
But I bet not everyone back in Rome was thrilled about that.
You're right. His success abroad made some people nervous, especially the old guard in the Senate. They saw him as a potential dictator, a threat.
Oh, so this is where that tension, between ambition and the Republic really comes to a head.
Right at this point.
This sets the stage for, I think, one of the most dramatic chapters in Roman history, the first triumvirate. Pompey comes home a hero, but faces a hostile Senate. So he teams up with two other powerful figures, Crassus, the super-rich financier, and this up-and-coming politician, Julius Caesar.
A powerful trio.
What was their motivation for joining forces? I mean, it seems like an unlikely alliance.
Well, each man had his own reasons. Pompey needed backing to ratify his settlements in the East and push back against the Senate.
Okay.
Crassus, despite all his money, he wanted political influence, maybe some military glory too. And Caesar, ambitious and clever as he was, saw this as his chance to really make a name for himself.
So it was a bit of a, a marriage of convenience. Three ambitious guys pooling their resources.
Exactly. But we know these kinds of arrangements, they rarely last.
What were the cracks in their foundation?
Well, for one thing, they were all strong personalities. Pompey, used to command, probably saw himself as the leader. Crassus, with all his wealth, probably felt he deserved an equal say. And Caesar, brilliant and cunning, he definitely wasn't going to settle for second place.
Wow, it sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It was, but there was one thing holding them together, at least for a while. Family. Caesar's daughter, Julia, was married to Pompey. A personal connection helped smooth things over.
A fragile bond, though, right?
Very fragile. And as you can guess, things start to fall apart. Crassus gets killed in Parthia, a huge blow to the triumvirate. Then tragedy strikes again. Julia dies in childbirth. That personal connection, gone.
The glue that held them together.
Exactly. No Crassus to balance the power, and no Julia to bridge the gap. The rivalry between Pompey and Caesar, it explodes.
And it all leads to the Roman Civil War.
The inevitable showdown.
I mean, Brother against brother, former allies turned bitter enemies. Tantuono does a great job, showing how chaotic this period was.
It was a mess.
One of the first things that comes to mind, Pompey leaving Rome. It seems strategic at first, but it also sends a message.
A powerful one. He's basically giving Caesar control of the capital. It was a big gamble, and it didn't work out.
And Caesar, of course, takes advantage, consolidates his power in Rome, using his charisma and his reputation as a man of the people.
Meanwhile, Pompey's over in Greece, trying to rally support, hoping to use his navy to cut off Caesar's supplies.
A classic strategy.
But Caesar was too smart for that. Outmaneuvered Pompey, landed in Greece, forced those confrontations. Pompey had some early wins, like at Dyrrhachium.
Right.
But then comes Pharsalus, the turning point, a clash of the titans that decided everything.
It's almost like a Shakespearean tragedy, Two former allies fighting to the death.
The stakes were incredibly high. And for Pompey, a crushing defeat. His army destroyed. He flees to Egypt, hoping to find safety, but it was a desperate move, and it backfired tragically.
It really is a tragic end. Pompey the Great, betrayed and murdered in Egypt.
It shows that even the most powerful men are vulnerable to betrayal. And it makes you wonder, what if Pompey had won at Pharsalus? Would the Republic have survived, or was its fall unavoidable?
Big questions. But one thing's for sure. Pompey's death, it marked the end of an era. The Republic, it was over. And Caesar, even though he would meet a similar fate, he set the stage for the Roman Empire.
And Pompey, even in defeat, left his mark. A complex figure, a brilliant general, a shrewd politician, ruthless at times, but also capable of mercy. His story, as Fratomono tells it, it's a warning about the dangers of power, how fragile alliances can be, and how unpredictable fate can be.
Well, we've gone deep into the life of Pompey the Great. His victories, his fall, the crazy world of Roman politics, and the legacy of a man who shaped history.
It's been a fascinating journey. I hope our listeners have a new understanding of this complicated and intriguing man.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, a big thanks to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. We'd love to hear from you. What surprised you most about Pompey? Did this change your view of Roman history? Share your favorite moment in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. Until next time, keep exploring.
Welcome back. It's hard to believe, right? The Roman Republic, this system that had lasted for centuries, all of a sudden on the verge of collapse.
Yeah, it's crazy. Reading about it, I kept thinking, how easily things can spiral out of control.
Right.
One wrong move, one bad decision, boom, civil war. It really shows you how fragile power can be.
And how unpredictable, those consequences of ambition.
Totally. This civil war, it was brutal. Desperate maneuvers, bloody battles. For Tantuono, he really captures that chaos, the human cost of it all.
Yeah, I wasn't pretty.
One of the first things that stood out, Pompey's decision to leave Rome. It seemed like a smart move at the time, like a strategic retreat. But it also sent a message, didn't it?
It did. By leaving Rome, he basically gave Caesar the keys to the city. It was a gamble, a calculated risk, but in the end, it backfired.
Yeah, Caesar swoops in. He's got that charisma, that reputation as a champion of the people. Quickly solidifies his power.
Meanwhile, Pompey's over in Greece trying to drum up support, hoping to use his navy to cut off Caesar's supplies. The classic strategy of, starving them out.
Right, wear them down.
But Caesar, always one step ahead, he outmaneuvered Pompey, landed his forces in Greece, forced those confrontations. Pompey had some early wins, like at Dyrrhachium, you remember?
Yeah.
But then comes Pharsalus, the decisive battle, the one that sealed Pompey's fate.
It's kind of like a Shakespearean tragedy, isn't it? These two guys, former allies, now enemies, facing off on the battlefield. I can only imagine the tension.
Yeah, the fate of Rome resting on this one battle.
And for Pompey, a crushing defeat. His army's destroyed, his forces scattered. He flees to Egypt, hoping for refuge. But it was a desperate move, and, well, we know how it ends.
A tragic end. Pompey the Great, betrayed and murdered in Egypt.
It's a stark reminder, right? Even the most powerful people, they're not immune to betrayal, to the twists of fate.
Makes you wonder, though, what if Pompey had won at Pharsalus? Could the Republic have survived? Or was it doomed no matter what?
Tough questions. Historians have been debating that for centuries.
They have.
But one thing's for sure, Pompey's death, it's the end of an era. The Republic is essentially dead, and Caesar, even though he meets a similar end a few years later, he lays the groundwork for the Roman Empire.
And Pompey, even in defeat, he leaves a legacy. This complex figure, a brilliant general, a savvy politician, ruthless when he had to be, but also capable of mercy. For Tantuono's book, it's a cautionary tale. about the allure of power, the fragility of alliances, and just how unpredictable fate can be.
We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? Pompey's rise to power, his tragic downfall, the wild world of Roman politics, and the legacy of a man who shaped history.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. And before we go, a huge thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. We always love hearing from you, so let us know what you think. What surprised you most about Pompey's story? Did this episode change your view of Roman history? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. Until next time, keep exploring.